finding your voice is tough. It's really a difficult thing a lot of the time. And, I think that you still go in and out of finding your voice and what you want to say. But I think as long as you have a sharp way to solve problems in a clever and a smart way, design-wise, I've tried to always lean heavily on that. Always think conceptually.
All right, we're back once again with the guest who has possibly the awesomest name that we've had so far, Justin Harder. I'm sure you've heard that before. This is episode 41 of the Pencil Kings podcast.
I'm excited to have Justin on here. We've just been chatting a little bit, and apparently you've got a doppelganger. Do you want to just dive in? And so if people are looking for you, they know how to find Justin Harder, the illustrator.
First of all, thanks for having me, Mitch, by the way. This is
going to be awesome.
Yeah, this is really cool. I love your guys' work, and I love your site and what you guys are doing. I think it's great for everybody to hear these stories. So, yes, I have a moniker. I go by Klaus, and it's klausstudios.com. My story, I was born in Illinois, but grew up in Texas and lived there for 25 years. Like most people probably on the podcast here on Pencil Kings, drew their whole life, even when everybody else kind of stopped drawing, when it became maybe uncool sometimes in school for people to draw. I continued to draw and knew that I wanted to draw for a living. So far so good, knock on wood. As far as the other guy's concerned, I think that he's more into live action directing now, but he was really well known when I first moved to LA. His name is Justin Harder as well. So I knew of him because he was rather famous in the motion graphics world. And when I first started freelancing out here 4 years ago, I'd go in and they go, "Hey, dude, cool. I haven't worked with you in a long time, bro. You look a little different, man." And I'm like, "Yeah, maybe look different because you've never met. We've never met each other before. I'm sorry. I've confused everything now." I'd get some calls after emails, and I'd get to go into some studios, some big studios here that do awesome work. In one particular place, the guy looked at me, and it was exactly that situation. And he goes, "Hey, we haven't worked together since DreamWorks." And I go, "Oh man, we haven't worked together." Anyway, that's not me, but here's my website. And so I kind of parlayed that into getting my stuff in front of people. And I've been in the industry for a long time too, so it's kind of funny the way it works out.
Your work spans so many different styles, and you're doing so much stuff from, selling prints, attending Comic Cons and connecting with your fans there. I guess the best place to start is what happened right after you finished college? Where were you, and what was that time of your life like?
It was rough. I was living in Sarasota still after college, and I think I made $6,000 a year.
Whoa.
That first year out, because what I was trained to do in the illustration program is to basically become a spot illustrator, and spot illustrations in editorial. This is 2003 we're talking. So I don't know. It was before a lot of things, definitely before motion graphics for me. And concept style frames I didn't even know existed. So that first year out of college was rough for me. I kind of felt a little bitter and a little bit a whole full year of just I did a massive mural for nothing. I was doing band t-shirts for nothing and some posters for nothing, but the work was really, really sparse, and I was getting pretty down on it, but I kept drawing, and that's when I kind of started picking up digital around that time. Yeah, so the first year was rough. I ended up getting a gig, kind of a freelance gig with a place in Texas, and so moved back to Texas, to Dallas, started working for this place called Real FX in Dallas. And what they do is a massive mixture of commercials, effects for films, and all kinds of everything in between, and kind of have a shotgun approach. And I came on board as a staff, entry-level illustrator for them. And so when you see the portfolio now, and there's a lot of different styles and a lot of different medium and addressed anyway, and I think that's where I got it from, this kind of ADD, this stylistic ADD, where I think I've been finding more of a voice now, but I think the styles at the end of the day kind of come from your problem solving. And so I just was trying to think of the best ways to problem solve so many different, put out so many different fires at this studio in Texas. So that was 2005. I got the job in Dallas at this spot and worked there for 7 years, and kind of came up from the ranks of entry-level designer and illustrator into art director and creative director, and did a lot of copywriting there as well. But that place really allowed me to flourish and just work on so many different projects all the time.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point for people to take away is when you have the opportunity to do that and work on so many different things, like it's actually fantastic because you're building the foundation that's going to let you kind of explode and take that anywhere. Or at least that's how I see it.
And I think you definitely need to be open to all of those as well. A lot of folks' portfolios, I did a review a couple months ago for some college kids, and just only design portfolios. So I have a major in illustration. I don't even have a degree or anything in design. But again, those skill sets and those fundamentals, and not to say you need one of those to be successful in this industry. It's like the NBA almost. It's like you've never asked a basketball player if he's really great at basketball, or you don't say, hey, but where did you go to college? Because I want to make sure that you have a degree. No, you just watch the guy play basketball, And so I think that now more than ever, especially with your online courses and things like this, that kids can come up and learn. There's so many different avenues and ways for them to get art. Before we would go and say, sit down in class, here's a teacher, this teacher knows what they're talking about. And it's like, now there's so many different ways, it seems, that people can learn and grow and flourish and find their voice. And finding your voice is tough. It's really a difficult thing a lot of the time. And, I think that you still go in and out of finding your voice and what you want to say. But I think as long as you have a sharp way to solve problems in a clever and a smart way, design-wise, I've tried to always lean heavily on that. Always think conceptually, especially with these end title designs I've been getting into lately is, if we're lucky enough to see the movie before we work on it, then that's phenomenal because it gives you so many things to play off of. It just gets difficult when you don't get to see the film and you're just going off of a trailer. Then you can't use those problem-solving skills a lot of the times that you've kind of been sharpening along the way.
Can you explain a little bit of what end title sequences actually means?
Sure.
And what you do and what your part of that is?
Sure. So they started out around the 50s, I suppose, 50s and 60s, but he would do opening title sequences for Hitchcock films, and those he's kind of like considered, and by me anyway, as the grandfather of the title sequence. So basically, the title sequence, either if it's the opening title sequence, it sets up, you get all the actors' names out there, but they've been doing those since the dawn of time, right? So, but he really brought it into sort of merging it with the concept of the film. So North by Northwest is a title sequence that is constantly referred to. And there's a great website online called theartofthetitle.com that has all these phenomenal title sequences. So check those out if you guys are out there. And what a title sequence does to me, it's such a cool challenge is because it tells a story. It's like the simplest way for us illustrators and designers to get our work and to get our voice onto the big screen. And what cooler place to have your stuff seen by so many people and to really inform a narrative than on the big screen.
I have something more, something none of your dry as dust professors and routine-ridden doctors have. Love, devotion, passion.
Recently, I've been fortunate enough to get some title sequences, and nowadays they're also putting them at the end of the film, which Marvel Studios has made very popular because they know that you're going to sit through the titles to get to that little bumper at the end where when Nick Fury walks out on Iron Man and says, oh my, you're going to join the Avengers, like from Iron Man 1, you're going, no way, how cool, what the heck, oh my gosh. So they know you're going to wait for that little bumper. So in between then, they're going to entertain you, right? So they've been putting these main on-end title sequences now, and they don't put them at the beginning now, they plop them at the end. So two years ago, I was able to concept on Thor: The Dark World, which was a massive opportunity. I'd never concepted on anything that large before, and that's that grand in scale. And just somehow was fortunate enough to get my concepts chosen, and then I jumped through the roof, and then I had to do 65 paintings. So it was just a lot of work, but the product is forever, right? So.
Yeah, and I remember those. Those are great sequences. So let me ask you, just because I'm curious about the process for this. So you would do your paintings, and then do you hand it off to somebody else, or are you doing everything yourself? How does it actually work from your idea to the final piece?
All right, so that one was through an awesome studio in Culver City called Blur. And Blur Studios does a lot of cinematics, and I know you've seen their stuff. It's like extremely photoreal CG. They do like a lot of Arkham Asylum stuff and things like that. But they freelanced me on that one. Whenever I did the Thor sequence, the first 4 or 5 paintings for them, they came back and she goes, "Well, I think we're getting close." This is Jen Miller over at Blur. She goes, "I think we're getting close. They really like yours and another one." So then they chose it, and then they brought me in there. And so I freelanced through them on that one, just going in their studio every day. I'd paint probably 2 or 3 of those a day on each one. If you guys have ever seen, out there listening, you've ever seen it, these really lively paintbrush strokes all over the canvas, and they're kind of creating a storm to bring on each actor and each character's face. Using red as like as an accent color, as a Thor's cape and everything. So each one of those files is like 65 to 85 layers, and I'd put like 2 brush strokes on each layer. And those are all brush strokes that I scanned in and turned into brushes in Photoshop. And some of them are found brushes too. But I had like a mixture going there, and then I would just save it to the server, and the animator would get it and then just start animating right next to me, like right when I watched him. It was crazy how fast we went. So that was that situation on there. So I didn't handle, and then they put it all in stereoscopic, and we would just go look at it in the movie room and make sure everything was looking right and no brush strokes were popping through the other ones and nothing looked off, or things like that. But there's a great luxury there to having a screening room like that. But for the most recent title sequence I did for the Book of Life, that was all done through Klaus. So Real Effects, the company that I worked for, and talk about connections again, that company I was telling you about, I worked for in Dallas for 7 years. I left, 4 or 5 years ago and came out to LA because I felt like I kind of hit the roof there. And just last year, they called me up and they saw the things I'd been doing since I left. And they said, "You want to give a shot for this is our second film. It's called The Book of Life." And it came out, Fox put it out, and it's Guillermo del Toro produced it and Jorge Gutierrez directed it. And they asked me if I wanted to give some concepts for it, for the end title sequence. So I got to see the film. I watched the film twice with them and came up with some direction. They chose this direction. And then I had basically brought the production, everything that we did with Thor, I brought all that production into my studio, and I had another animator, Byron Slayball, animate the whole thing with another guy named Justin Dimitrition. So we had these 2 animators and we knocked out the whole sequence. So it's pretty crazy.
I love it. I have fond memories of working in LA and in the film industry.
Yeah.
I miss those days. And Blur used to be like just down the street from my house in Venice. And
oh, is that right?
I had some friends who worked there. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's hilarious. So yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Blur is, extremely famous for their parties at SIGGRAPH. If you're listening and you ever have maybe an opportunity to go, like make that opportunity happen. I think they're still doing them.
Absolutely. I think they do. That's crazy, man. So you're right down the street there in Venice. That's cool.
Yeah, it was a great neighborhood.
I think it's crazy. Look out at the rain. Where anybody sees only a drop of water rolling down the window, I see a universe of beings animated with all the passions common to physical life.
Let's change direction a little bit. You've done so much stuff, and right now on my computer screen, I have up a print of the cars that you've drawn for your shop. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, but I'm curious about what it's like going to Comic-Con and preparing all your prints and what that kind of arm of everything that you're doing looks like. What's exciting about that for you? I guess that's a great place to start.
That's a great question, because all of that aspect of what I've been doing was very fresh. It's only a couple of years old. Basically, it all stems from the desire to get your artwork in front of people and to see their expressions and to have a more personal connection with them. And that might sound like a canned answer, but it's really not, because when you're working on like commercials, as you know, you don't really get to share the experience with the individual very often. We have these websites that we post and that people can see your stuff, but you never really get to talk with them. That's what got me so psyched about doing this thing today with you and talking with Pencil Kings, is that, it's cool to share and to pass on any kind of knowledge that you've acquired so far. It's definitely paying it forward, but it's also just helping somebody that might be on the edge, on the fence of whether they want to keep continuing with drawing or whatever. But so the comic book conventions, I started with WonderCon in Anaheim in 2013 or 14. I had 7 prints. I print Giclée prints on heavy archival paper from a place called gicleetoday.com, and they do amazing prints. I'm talking like you would look at it and think it's done on the paper. It's that great. And I wanted to make sure that there was quality there, and I kind of went about doing it a different way. A lot of folks will kind of hit you with a ton of stuff there because they have all this inventory built up over the years, because sometimes prints don't sell out at the convention, so they bring it to the next one, then all of a sudden they have 85 different options for you to buy there. And so here I am in Artist Alley with my 8 prints. I went into Home Depot and built some little shelving units that kind of make it look more like a gallery. And so I was there all with my little postcards and everything, all my business cards and all this promo and everything. And it was just so cool. It's such a great environment at the comic conventions. Everyone's so supportive and nice and energetic and so psyched about comics and video games and everything that I've ever loved, So I love meeting the folks there. They're so great. And this year I'm actually going to have 2 tables at Comic-Con, which I don't know how it happened. We had to spread the product out, and I'm definitely gearing up for it. Hence the cars that you've seen, my favorite cars from my favorite films. There's just so many of them. It was like a rabbit's hole once I started picking out cars to draw, right? So I think that's what you're on right now. That's the image that you're looking at.
But there's just so much stuff here that I'm really blown away on how you can so seamlessly change styles, and everything has, even when you're, this is such a cliche, even when your stuff is loose, it's so tight.
Can I use that as a quote on the site? I'm gonna use that.
Definitely.
I like it. Definitely the rides and the squints, the personal stuff that has now been bleeding over into the work for clients. Recently, I pitched on the Ant-Man titles, and I ended up drawing some characters that are exactly like the squints. I was like, okay, there's a snowball's chance in hell that they're going to go for these, but I was going to give it a shot because that's the way I wanted to. I love drawing, and I thought it could have been a good concept for it because there's kind of a flippancy to the film, and there's something kind of fun and cool about those guys, and maybe they're loose and massive on the screen. And let's be honest, I just wanted to see them on a massive screen. They didn't go with it, but you can see sometimes I'll start bringing those styles over into it. You're drawing a certain way for a while, and you get another project. It's going to take a couple of days to get out of that mindset, that other mindset that you were in when you were working that certain way, and you might need to shift gears. And again, coming from a commercial background at a place where I had to put out a fire every other. I mean, I was booked half days on projects. I mean, try sinking your teeth into anything when you're booked for 4 hours. It's like, wait, I just opened up Photoshop and now I'm done. Oh boy. I mean, just snapping the fingers like you ready to move. So it definitely trained me into, and I remember when I first moved out to LA, I went to brand new school to work. Brand new school is a commercial house, and they do awesome work. And I was so excited to be working for them because they would always beat our butts in Dallas at Real Effects. I'm always like, wait, who won the job? Brand new school. Oh, geez. And so I get to freelance for them when I come out to LA. And I were going into the studio, and here I am with my Wacom pad and my big hard drive full of textures and tricks and all my glitzes and glamours and all this crud. You go in there and the guys are working on one style during one day, I'm going, so are you going to do another style? And they're like, what? No, I'm going to work on this one for 4 days. And I go, I'm messed up, because we would just be trained to go so fast, man,
A lot of people don't realize how fast you're actually working. When you go from school where you have, a week to work on one thing to working in production, and you've got it was due yesterday or it's due at 6 p.m. today and your file crashes at lunchtime or something. What kind of advice could you give to people that, I don't know if you can ever really replicate that at home because the pressure is just so intense. It's not like that everywhere, but I think it's not that uncommon. What advice could you give to somebody so that they can kind of realize and kind of push themselves and maybe even, double their speed that they're working at home, not only so that they're learning faster, but they're getting more work out there and they're spreading their artwork over the internet at a faster rate and more people are seeing their stuff. What do you think?
I think you hit on the head is that sometimes we tend to get caught up in a mindset where everything is so precious. And I think nowadays more than ever with everyone posting their bowl of cereal on Instagram, that nothing as far as art is concerned, it seems that really it's almost like a constant flow of output in a way, and that can burn you out. But nothing is precious. It really shouldn't be precious. I mean, you have to get it, put it out there, and if it's not right, you'll get it right next time. And if you don't get it right next time, you'll get it right the following time. It doesn't really matter if it's not perfect because you're going to have another shot at it, the next one. And if it sticks conceptually, if it sticks, especially with these title sequences, then you'll work on it longer and be able to perfect it. But what I tell kids that are in school right now, you really do need to pick up the pace. School does not prepare you for the pace of the commercial world. You get 2, 3, 4 weeks for a project, where they're like, okay, guys, this one's due, December 5th. You're going, wait, it's July. You can't rest on that because that never happens in the commercial world or the entertainment world, or from what I hear, the comic book world either, for what these guys' page rates are. And that doesn't mean that you just hurry through things and just put out a bunch of poo-poo caca. You've got the knowledge, you've got the training, you've got the years background of backing. You use all those skills to put into that small amount of time and hopefully address the problem with all of your years of training. My fiance posted a hilarious thing on my Facebook with this comic strip, 2 panels, and a guy is holding a drawing in front of another guy that's sitting at a table, and he goes, wait, you want how much for that? And it only took you 10 minutes? And then the other guy holding the drawing goes, it took me 10 years to figure out how to do it in 10 minutes. And yes, I want all of that. It's classic because your years that you've been putting into this stuff is going to every single minute or hour that you're drawing or designing. I mean, you've solved a lot of problems along the way. It all sticks with you. So hopefully you can build on top of that. And again, it comes down to the problem solving.
I especially like the comment where you're going and talking to students and telling them to pick up the pace. I think it's a great phrase to keep in the back of your mind when you're drawing and it's late or your energy's low, and it's just like, okay, just pick up the pace, like hurry this up, not to be sloppy. But I think one of the things that I always try to do is with any software package that I'm using is learn your shortcut keys. That'll save you over the course of your career, probably years, just by knowing how to do things really quickly.
Totally. The shortcut keys in Photoshop or Illustrator, those are the only 2 programs that I really work in at all. What's funny is that you can just always, have you just ever had somebody show you something that you should have totally known? I have that all the time. I'm like, man, I really need to actually learn Photoshop at some point. I am brain dead with a couple of these things to happen. But I totally agree with you.
Just on that point, I'm just going to put one plug for especially one of the courses that we have on Pencil Kings called The Ultimate Guide to Photoshop. And it's a couple versions of Photoshop old, but it goes through covering all the different tools and how to use them and different shortcut keys. And it's really, even as an experienced or sort of a seasoned Photoshop user, I found it really enlightening just to see how somebody else uses the tools. And that's one of the awesome things about working in a studio is how you can look over the shoulder and be like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? Whoa.
Yeah.
You just did what used to take me half an hour. You did it in 2 minutes. What was that? How do you do that?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, man. I mean, at the studio, when you can have those people around you who you can look up to and go over their shoulder and they can show you that little thing, it's definitely helpful. And also, I mean, in that studio environment, which is, and you touch upon it there, is this was one of the big talking points before, was that do you go freelance or do you go full time? Obviously, a lot of people want to be their own boss. You can see how you could be their own boss. They have these massive followings on Instagrams and Twitter where they're getting their work in front of so many people. I follow some people on Instagram. They have 85 to 150,000 followers. You're going, goodness gracious. That's a lot of eyeballs on your artwork every single day or anything, The freelance versus full-time, I would go full-time initially if anyone's out there is wondering, or if you can, because it gets you working steadily on so many different projects that you're going to need to build up that experience. And that's what I've found as I've moved on and have a studio now. It still ebbs and flows.
Are you an artist? Do you have a crazy dream?
I would encourage anybody listening to go and check out Justin's website and the prints that he's doing. And which Comic-Cons are you going to? Where can people check you out?
Up next is San Diego Comic-Con in July 7th through the 12th. If anyone's down in San Diego for it, come on by. I'll be in small press. My Klaus booth will be there, and I'll have another one over near the Vinyl Toys.
Awesome. And why don't you tell people the best way to find you online, to spell out your website so there's no confusion, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure. It's klausstudios.com, and that's CLAUS, and then studios, all one word, .com. And also Klaus Studios for Twitter and Instagram and Tumblr. Those are my 3 that I post daily to.
Daily? Dang.
Daily,
you are a busy man.
Daily stuff, hopefully. Don't hold me to that, please. I'll have to be... Talk about picking up the pace. I better get to it.
Awesome. And we'll have show notes for this along with links to Klaus Studios and Justin's shop and some of the other resources that he had. What was that? Glyke?
Oh, yeah. G Clay. It's I might even be pronouncing that properly, by the way. It could be Gickly for all I know, but it's Giclee. GClayToday.com. And their prints, I'm not trying to plug them. I don't get paid by them. They do awesome work.
Printing for me is always something that you're like so happy in Photoshop, and you take it to that print shop and you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be awesome. And you get it printed out and you're just like, oh, why? Why did I even come down here? This is so disappointing.
Totally, man. And the place is, they do phenomenal stuff. You'll really love it.
Great. So yeah, we'll have show notes for this at pencilkings.com/Justin-Harder, JUSTIN-HARDER. So thank you so much, Justin. And I really appreciate it. And I hope the people listening will pick up the pace.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much, Mitch. See you guys.
Thanks.
Demands patience, skill, years of practice.
You talk like a fool. I would trade a century of practice for an ounce of inspiration.
That does it for another episode of the Pencil Kings podcast. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, or everywhere. See you guys soon.